Okay, got it. So, hi, Priyanka. I'm so excited for us to be doing this conversation today about you and parenting and connecting.
Me too. I'm so excited to be with you.
I know, we've been on quite a journey with you in being a parent and
Yeah.
actually using connecting in giving birth and then your first child.
Yes.
And now you're about to have your second child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think today what I'd like to really have you really share about is what is it like parenting from connecting and connect, listen, trust, and act. I have so many parents that share with me about the impact and the difference that connecting has made for them as a parent. And, my 4-step method of connect, listen, trust, act. So, what is it that you would want to share about what it's been like for you in this first year of being a parent, knowing nothing about being a parent and using connecting?
Yeah. So, the biggest thing for me has been connecting has been really reliable. And my daughter is now turning 2 in a few weeks. So it's been 2 years of parenting through connecting. And there's just been so many little milestone moments where I feel like I've had to figure out how I want to navigate being a parent. you know,
Mm.
you you leave the hospital with this little baby in your hands and no rule book.
Mm.
No rule book, um, no directions. You're just like, here, take this child and now go be a parent. And so there's been so many moments where I've found myself feeling stuck, confused, frustrated, upset, unsure of what's the best decision to make. And as a parent, like it can be really scary at times, and it can be really nerve-wracking to think every little decision that you make for your child is going to impact how your kid turns out to be.
Mm. Mm.
And the only thing as a parent that's important to me is that I want to raise like really a confident daughter, someone who is really loving and caring and polite and is healthy and happy. And so I know in my mind what I want, right? Like all these things that I want, but there's no guaranteed way of how to get there.
Yeah.
So
You know,
connecting has
it-
been helping me navigate with much more confidence and navigate with less stress
got
through
it.
the process is really what connecting has done for me.
Got it. More confidence and less stress.
Yeah.
Well, when I bring out as I brought out this practice of connecting to people's lives, the biggest area that I feel has been so dramatic, I should say, is the area of parenting because I'm not a parent, I've never had a child, but I cannot imagine what it's like to have another person's life in your hands. And what I love about connecting, I think that parents have benefited so much from, is that they get to disengage the way their mind thinks they should be a parent and actually get new ways of how to really be with their child that you can't learn in school or in a book or even from your own parents. And that's the tendency we have, except life is so different. There's so many different factors, like how do you parent your child, so that what's unique to you and your child works for you.
Yeah, that
And,
is,
and
I
maybe
think,
there's
the
some
key.
examples you could share about that, because even I know even culturally, I'm sure there's so many ways that you know how to be a parent from even maybe what your parents might tell you.
Yeah, it's so true. Over the course of the last 2 years, I feel like I've been on information overload.
Mm.
I say that all the time, especially with my friends, because I think every mom understands that concept of information overload. When you are at a decision making point as a parent, and it can be a small or big decision, you kind of assess all your options. That's like the normal thing to do. And the information you get, the advice you get is from everywhere, you know, from doctors, from blogs, from your own parents. You know, my own parents have given me so much advice on, you should do this. It worked for you. my, my sister-in-law, my friends, you know, my neighbors, there's just people that want to help you and they care for you. And so they want to give you advice. But what ends up happening is that you get all this advice and then you don't know what to do with it, because sometimes it's conflicting. Sometimes you try it and it doesn't work. Most of the time you try it and it doesn't work. And then it feels like, you know, there's always a part of me that felt like some of the advice was very cookie cutter. Like, this is how you discipline your kid now so that they'll turn out to be a great toddler. And I'm like, okay, but is that right for my daughter who is really unique? And is it right for me? Is that the kind of parent I want to be? You know, there's a lot of questioning what's the right thing to do. And with connecting, I feel like all of that clutter of what do I do? Is it the right thing? It all literally goes out the window. And I don't have to worry, because every time there's a decision-making moment or, you know, a path, like, do I go here or do I go there? Do I put her in daycare or do I keep her home for longer? Do I start feeding her solids or should I keep her on this regimen for longer? You know, I always get answers from myself that are so clear that it becomes almost unquestionable. Like, I don't have to worry about the other options because I just know that what I'm doing is the right thing to do. And the crazy part about that is that I think over time, you realize that every decision you make, when you look backwards, and every decision you made from yourself, it really works. like people always will tell me, oh my God, your daughter's so well behaved, or, you know, oh my God, you got her to, you know, quickly acclimate into daycare and she loves it. She didn't even have any separation anxiety. And I'm like, actually, no. I mean, you know, like, there's little things where you get clues about how well you're doing as a parent when you're connecting that just like comes to you so effortlessly. And I found that in itself is what makes it so priceless. And that for me has been the biggest reason that I keep connecting, because it keeps working.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you're sharing about daycare, but what was it like when what were some, if you recall, what are some like times when you knew that from connecting it was different because you went the way you would normally go, and then you went to connecting, and then you listened and you trusted and you acted from yourself, not your mind, and what happened? Like, what are some, if you look at your child, what were some key, of course, because you connect, as you know, and you're in our membership, it's a lifestyle, right? But what would you say along the way were some core turning points where you went, yes, forget those books, forget all those things? And it doesn't mean I can't be informed, but when it comes down to what are the actions that would give me the results to assure my child's best interest for this decision I'm about to make, that it was connecting that you landed on. What were like a couple of situations like that?
So, you know, it's funny that I brought up daycare because I think that was one turning point. I happened to have my daughter start daycare in the middle of this COVID pandemic. And when I tell you that all signs pointed to no, I really do mean that. You know, my family was like, she was home with me. I was been working from home. And so up until that point, she had been home, right? And so my family was like, you're gonna, in the middle of this pandemic, start sending her to daycare with other kids.
That's
That's not
dramatic.
okay.
That is dramatic. Yeah.
It's dramatic. It is
Yeah.
dramatic. So I, my instinct was, oh, let me Google, how are other moms handling this? And I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups with other moms too. So I did a little scanning of what other moms were saying. And it was funny because the moms in my area were actually pulling their kids out of school as much as they could. So some moms were sharing online how they are trying to move their full-time jobs into part-time jobs so that they can actually be home more and keep their kids home for longer. Some women were sharing how they're actually leaving their jobs because they're really fearful of their children being exposed to germs at this time, et cetera, et cetera. And so while this is going on around me, right, I have friends, family telling me, keep her home. That's the smart thing to do, Priyanka. And women on blogs saying, for sure, I'm not gonna, bring more exposure to my kids. I could feel the stress like on top of me of like, I don't know, like my daughter feels like I can see at the same time that she's craving like being with other kids. And I could see at home we would play with puzzles and we would do activities, but she would get bored after some time.
Yeah.
Like I could really tell like she was craving more. Like she was just a little sponge and she wanted to learn and play. And so I could feel this tug of war going on inside of me. Like I can tell she wants more, but doesn't feel like the right thing to do.
Right.
So I went to Connecting because I couldn't deal with all of the advice and I couldn't keep feeling this tug of war because it was just like so stressful. It was stressful. And it was clear as day. And I got, it's all is well. It is fine. And send her, it was very specific. I got to send her to the local daycare that's around the corner from my house. It's a very small daycare. They only have 10 kids. And it was like, she's going to love it and it's great and she's going to be fine. And just send her. Send her a few days a week. Don't send her full time, send her part time. And just, it's going to be fine. And so, of course, I have this whole conversation with my husband and we're going back and forth. And then we go do a visit to the daycare and meet the staff. And as soon as I went and met the staff, it was like that feeling of all is well, this is exactly what you need to do, became even clearer. They were,
I want to take what you're sharing and just really speak to why Connecting is so different, right? Because you got that, but another parent may not get that.
Yeah.
You see, what was unique for your child is that going there is what then moved her into the next phase, you could say.
Yeah.
And what is so critical, I feel, about Connecting for parents is that it lets go of the fear.
Absolutely. It totally does. You let go of the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the concern, all of that stuff. It's almost not even in the picture anymore. It's not even cluttering up the space, And when we started sending her, it was like exciting. Like we would wake up and it's like, we're going to go to school, and she would get all happy and she loved it. She still today goes and she loves it. But what I saw in her over the course of the next few months was so priceless. She totally opened up. She started singing songs. She was singing her ABCs within 2 months. She loved interacting with the other kids. She actually would come home and tell me, "Mama, wash our hands," because they would wash their hands every hour at the place. It was like I really started to see her grow in a way that I remember months later, it had hit me. We were just in the living room playing with puzzles and whatever. And I was watching her, and it hit me how much her going was the right thing for her
Yes.
at that time.
Yes.
And it's exactly what you said, you know, someone else may not get the same thing that I had gotten because it was
Yes.
so right for me and my family and my relationship with my daughter. But I think that's what makes connecting so special, because at some point, you know, you can get all the information, you can read all the books, you can listen to all the experts, but as a parent, there is something deep within you that where you know what's right for your child. And I feel like connecting just taps into that. Like it just goes right to the core, and it taps right into you and your knowing of what your child needs, what they want, what's best for them. And even when everything around you is telling you to go down a different pathway, whenever you follow what you get from your own self, it's always the right pathway. And it's just,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I think that as a parent, you did all the due diligence, all the research, all the
yeah,
looking, everything, because you're a first-time parent and you're an
I
only
did a lot of research.
child. So what, and you've seen other mothers and you see what they post, what would you say was different about your journey of having your baby and taking care of your baby from what was different? Because it's not like somebody would do something so totally different. Everybody's got to feed the baby,
Yeah.
take care of your baby. You've got to, you know, like do all the things you would do. But what would you say was different that you did because you were connecting?
I think what was different is, I think what was the biggest difference is the quality of my life. And, you know, when your baby's so small, when my baby was, you know, my daughter was an infant, it's exactly what you said. You got to feed the baby, change the diaper. You know, it's almost like the same list, and you do it every day until she starts to crawl or walk. But there's so much to worry about. So many little possibilities to worry about, like, am I feeding her enough? Am I doing the right thing? Is she drinking enough? And none of that stuff, when you don't have that stress and worry in the everyday, you can actually just enjoy your time with your child. You know, no matter how old your kid is, whenever you look backwards, you're like, oh my God, there was those special moments that you just got to like connect with your children and just be really close to them. And I feel like with connecting, I've had so many of those. I've had so many just precious moments that I haven't taken for granted, where I've just like been in the moment with her. And that was only possible because I wasn't holding her with a to-do list in my head, or, you know, stressing over 20 things at one time. There was so many more like relaxing, just beautiful moments where I felt really connected as a parent to my child.
You know, I don't think you could really, I mean, people might hear that, but it's hard to
Yeah,
get it, you
it is
know?
hard to get it.
But like, that's what we want, right? And I think that that is why connecting is like the level, like beyond in self-help, in how we can live, because getting rid of those concerns
Yeah,
that are predominant all the time, that disengage us from being in a now. Like being in a now could be so conceptual,
yeah,
but what connecting does, it actually puts it, makes it real in your life.
yeah,
So what I can hear is you have this sense of satisfaction that you experienced being with your daughter from the time she was born. And even now, even as she's growing, you
yeah,
have that moment, those moments, because you connect as a practice. So you keep letting go of anything the mind might lay on top of you to be concerned about, to disengage you away from being connected to her. And you know what I love about connecting is that because it's about connecting from yourself, you naturally get more connected to whoever
yeah,
you're with, right?
yeah.
I can imagine that the experience of a mother is so much more enriched.
It is, and it's so much more fulfilling,
Mm,
and it's so much more rewarding.
mm,
And it's exactly what you said. You know, you can describe it as much as you want, but there's always, it's so distinct when you feel it, because when you feel it, it's almost like it's so undeniable. Like, I
mm,
know that there is a closeness I have with my daughter that nobody in the world has except me and her, and we have this bond, and we've had it from day one. And as she grows and I get to watch her grow, I can feel our relationship evolving. But it's that feeling of just being really fulfilled as a mom and really rewarded. That is just growing. It
mm.
just feels like my connectedness with her as a human being is just growing with time.
But
And it's really
how would you
beautiful.
say a mom might say, or a parent might say, I have a bond with my child? How
Yeah.
would you distinguish what you mean by that? Because there is an
Yeah.
inherent bond with a mother and her child. What would you say is distinct by virtue of how you're saying it, by virtue of you connecting?
So, what connecting has really enabled me to do is tap into our relationship at any given moment. So, as a mother, for me, I carried my daughter for 9 months, and then she comes into this world, and we've been on this journey together. And through the journey, it's a unique journey that I have. There's been so many moments where I've learned a lot about myself, about a lot about life through my relationship with her. And that bond is undeniable.
Mm,
And with connecting, what's happened is that there have been times where, you know, as a parent of a toddler, I'll find myself like losing patience over something, um, or wanting her to do one thing and she wants to do the total polar opposite.
yeah.
And connecting has allowed me to tap into our journey together and our relationship together in a way where I'm getting answers from myself around, what our journey is about. And I feel like I'm evolving as a person through my relationship with her.
So let's say, is there a situation where like she wants to go left and you want her to go right, and then what happens? You connect, and what would occur? Like what did you get? Was there a particular situation you can recall, and
Yes.
then it shifted you, and then it
Yeah.
shifted her.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So when she started eating foods,
Mhm.
over the last few months, she really wanted to feed herself. She went through this phase of like, give me the plastic baby fork so I can eat it myself. And it would result in food all over the floor, food on the table, the fork would go up and it would fly across the room. And plenty of moments where I would find myself as a parent just like annoyed and frustrated, especially on the days where I had a million things to do. I'm like, today is not the day. Can I just feed you and we can just be done eating in 15 minutes and then let's move on to the next task, right? Let's not have food become an hour-long mess fest.
Right.
So I would notice like I remember like being in the kitchen thinking, why am I getting so aggravated? Like this is not the kind of parent I want to be, but I can't help it. And I'm so annoyed,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I
Well,
think,
pause for a second. I just want to say something, because
yeah.
what I can hear also is that because you connect, you recognize
Mm,
when because people don't really understand what disconnect might be, because
yeah.
it's such a, when you're connecting and you're living from connecting, I know what you mean, because that's what I do. That's
Yeah.
what I bring to life, right? But it's that you you're so you so have a feeling of, you're so you so don't have any of your mind's concern or worry about anything there doing, not doing, about them, about you, about their life, that you're so present and available to being with them, that when you don't feel that you're so present, it registers.
Yeah, it's almost like you notice when you're not being yourself. You notice when something feels off about you as an emotional barometer. You're like, oh, I know I'm not feeling like my calm, centered, normal.
Got it. That's it. Common centered.
Yeah, something's off when you're not feeling calm and centered, because when you are connecting, feeling calm and centered, just it becomes like every day. You're not working for it. You're not trying to be it. Yeah, you're not like trying to be calm and centered. It just is an outcome of connecting. You just notice that life feels calmer and your day feels easier. And so when it isn't that, you're like, okay, something feels off and I can tell. And it's usually when for me, it's like usually when I'm like annoyed or short-tempered or something's really frustrating, I can feel like I don't feel like my normal self.
Right.
So I was having one of those moments where I'm like, I'm aggravated and I'm losing my patience as a parent, and simultaneously I know something's off with me. Like what, I remember thinking like, Priyanka, this is not the kind of parent you wanted to be. You didn't want to be the parent to say, just eat your food and stop spilling it everywhere, which is like all I wanted to do was scream.
Yes.
And so it's fine. My day went on. And then later that evening, I connected on it. I spent 10 minutes. It took 10 minutes. She went to bed. In 10 minutes, I just quickly listened to a connection and wrote down what I had gotten. And I remember writing out, like I remember hearing from myself, she's experiencing eating for the first time and she's having fun. And it like, those words are so simple, and anyone could have told me those words, but it was so different when I got it from connecting, because it was this feeling that came with it. And it just brought me to this place of like, oh my God, like she's 1.5 years old and she's experiencing this like little level of independence of eating for the first time. And there's this joy infused with her, like experiencing how to eat. And I'm over here all aggravated or whatever. And I'm like, feeling whatever from my world, but in her world, she's just this innocent 1.5-year-old. It brought me to this place of just realizing how innocent she was. She wasn't this child trying to ruin my day. She wasn't like trying to make my life miserable and draw out this lunchtime to be 2 hours and have me run around picking up food off the floor. Like that wasn't intentional. And it like brought me to this place of just realizing how much of my emotions and my frustration was just coming from me. It really wasn't coming from her. It was me feeling how I was feeling because I wanted my day to go a certain way and it wasn't going that way.
So how long did the throwing the food all over the table lasted?
To be honest, it lasted a few weeks. I'm not gonna lie. But when it's funny, I started shifting the more it would happen.
Shifted.
Yeah.
What was the experience for you with her eating now and learning how?
So different. So the next day it happened again.
Yes.
As it would.
Yeah.
And I remember starting to show her. Like I remember walking over to her and saying, Maya, like, here, look, mommy, this is how mommy's gonna scoop it. Yeah. And she was so observant. I mean, she was like, oh, and she was like trying to scoop it. Now, she wasn't a pro at first,
right.
But I found myself being more patient with her.
Yes.
And I found myself coming like back down to my connection with her. And it had me be a different person in the same situation.
Yes.
So I found myself like showing her more. I found myself being with her more. If something fell, I remember saying like, oops, it's okay, and I would go pick up the pasta off the floor or whatever. Um, and over the course of the few weeks, I mean, I watched her like master it, I watched my little daughter like master using a spoon and using a little fork. And
Yeah. But I
remember
want to present
different.
something, because imagine that, first of all, there's no, it's what there is in when you start to connect is there's no right or wrong way to parent, right?
Yeah.
And I want to bring up this whole concept even of conscious parenting, which I think is a great shift. But this is beyond, this is a new awareness, right? Because when you went to connect, you actually shifted your energy
Yeah.
from your how your mind would be with her. It's not
Yeah.
even like you had to have techniques or anything. You just shifted, right?
Totally.
And what's, imagine if you as a parent, and you would do the best you can, and parents do, let me feed them, let me just, I'll feed them then, right?
Yeah.
And then imagine then if you started to say, look, Maya, it's okay, let mommy feed you, and so she let you feed her,
Yeah.
and then you will be start feeding her, and then she becomes like, okay, well, that's what mommy does, she feeds me. And this way she actually became more of herself. She
Mm.
was able to learn and be more of what she needed to do and for herself, and she learned things. And it doesn't mean that if you were feeding her it would be wrong, but when you connect, you're having your actions have that child become more of who they are,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is totally a whole different way of parenting.
Yeah, because it was almost like how I was being with her was empowering her.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so now she is a child that has a way of relating to herself,
Yeah.
just from you connecting and then getting the guidance and answers from yourself, not from the way your mind would handle it. And I'm saying this because, listen, you could have read a book, you could have
Yeah.
followed some routine, you could say, okay, when they're doing that, you should tell them, look, hold your spoon like this, eat like this. But that's not what you did, because it shifted you into being in the energy and the vibration of her.
Yeah.
The actions you took were aligned with how she was in that moment. And for me, this is why connecting alters the way you parent, because you're not going through the mind to try and figure out how to be with your child. The
Yeah.
connecting shifts you out of your mind so that you could be yourself with the self of your child. And when you're being with the self of your child, they naturally become their self. They grow up more as their self. And this is why everyone parenting, everybody's writing and everybody is looking and seeking. But I do love what you said, that when you go to yourself, it's what you need for you as a parent with that child. Because your second child is going to be totally different. And even if they're throwing the food all over the place and you connect, you might get something totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may get for that child, oh, you know, you feed, um, actually feed them right now. You might get that for that child.
Yeah.
And then maybe as you keep connecting, whatever they needed that was there might be different after. Then you'll get, show them this or teach, I don't know what you'll get. And that's what I
Yeah.
love about connecting, because nobody is telling you how to parent your child. You're
Yeah.
getting it from yourself.
Yeah.
And as they evolve, you could say what you get fits what they need.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, as a parent, you get to watch it happen in front of you. It's very special because
Well,
the
what do you
more
mean by
I'm
that?
connecting,
Well, what do you mean by that? You get to watch them.
so the more that I am connecting, the more I see the shift happening simultaneously in my child.
Mm.
And it's unique because it's like watching it happen in real time. So it's as simple as, some mornings you just have a rough morning, right? Like, you can't find the clothes in time, she doesn't want to change her diaper, whatever, you just have a rough morning.
Yeah.
And so there's been moments where while she's napping, I'll sneak in like a 5-minute audio connection just for myself, because I'll notice I'm just like, today's not going the way I want it to go. I just feel a little stressed out. And so whenever I do a connection, I calm myself down.
Got it.
And then she'll wake up from her nap and it's as though the morning never happened.
Wow.
She's like calm, happy, not fussy, wants to be playful all day. It's like, it's funny. It's like the calmer I am,
Mm.
it translates into her behavior, and it feels like you're watching it in real time.
Mm.
And the days that I'm, all over the place and I'm stressed out, or I am trying to get a lot of things done and life feels chaotic, that also translates into her behavior, because those will be the days where she doesn't want to wear her jacket, or she, she doesn't want to go here or there, or she doesn't want to listen. Those will be the days of chaos. And it always starts with how I'm feeling.
Got it.
And I definitely noticed that over time.
Yes.
But it's amazing to think, like, on those rough days,
Yeah.
I always have myself to fall back on. Like, I'm always in control as a parent, because all I have to do is shift my energy.
Right.
And
by releasing your mind to connect with yourself.
By releasing my mind and connecting to myself, I shift my own energy,
And then
my own vibes change, and then I watch how it translates into her own behavior. And it's just really amazing as a parent to know that there's something reliable like connecting that you can always go to, because when you read the books and you hear the blogs and you listen to the doctors and the experts and all these different concepts out there of how to parent, they don't always work. And they're not always reliable. And there's always a bunch of caveats, like your kid should be a certain age and they shouldn't have this and they shouldn't be that. And then, it's like, it's always, it feels like a cookie cutter approach. And like, these experts don't know your child the way you do. They don't know your relationship, your home, the environment, their behaviors. There's so many assumptions built into all these different approaches. And when you go to yourself, it's just taps right into the uniqueness of your relationship. So I just feel like...
How would you say you've experienced connecting to yourself as a distinct from everyone out there saying what there is for you to do, even like the doctors and so on, and you can be informed, but what would you say you've experienced comes from yourself as a parent that has allowed you to not have any stress, not live in, like, to be calm and centered as a parent?
There is this confidence that I say it arises because it just comes from within you. And it's not confidence like, okay, there's 10 options, I'm picking the best option. It's like this confidence of just knowing. It's almost like, the way I would describe it to my friends is like, if there's people who just have a passion and they're like, this is what I want to do with my life. And I know it because that's how passionate I am about this hobby or whatever. It's like that. Like, it's unexplained. It's this unexplainable, sometimes illogical confidence. And whenever I'm getting something from myself, there's this confidence that's so embedded into it. And so as a parent, every time I'm choosing something for my child, it's like I know I'm doing the right thing. It's unquestionable.
Got it.
And that is so, so different than reading 10 books and trying to figure out what's the best method, you know? I'll give you an example. Like when I was sleep training my child, I went online, of course, and read all these books. And there's so many things you can do to sleep train your child. There's like all these different methods, all these different experts telling you what's the best way. And then there's old ways of doing things. There's new parenting methods of doing things. There's all these parents online saying this worked for me, it didn't work for me, you know. And so you don't even know where to start. I mean, for me, it was like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, and I had so many questions. I just had so many questions. I remember, like, am I sleep training her at the right age? Am I going to let her cry it out? Like, is that the method I'm going to do? Am I going to be the parent who's going to let her sleep in my bed forever? There's like so many ways that parents can handle things nowadays. And everything has their pros and cons. You know, parents online were like, if you keep your child in your bed, you are more bonded with them.
Oh.
And you can,
yeah.
And other people were like, well, if you let them cry it out, then they'll turn more independent and it'll be great for them because you're just helping cut the cord. And it was a lot. And then I remember going to connecting, and I remember it was like I just knew. I connected, I listened to my connection, I wrote down what I got for myself, like we do in connecting. And it was like I just knew, I just had this plan. It was like this brilliant plan just came up of how I wanted to tackle sleeping.
It was different than anything you've seen or read. It was a combination.
It ended up being like a combination of some of the things I read.
Yes.
It was not one approach the whole way from beginning to end. But what resulted was that I ended up having my daughter be trained to sleep in her crib. And every night we would have a bedtime routine and she would go sleep in her crib. And there were nights where she would be fussy and I would just hold her and let her sleep with me. You know, there were nights when that would happen. And like when you learn about the cry it out method, that's a big no. Like all the blogs were saying, so whatever you do, don't give in to their crying.
I know. It really is starting. You begin to trust that intuitive part of you that you can go, okay, no, I'm going to do this because right now that's what I get to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like.
About it, like real peace. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
you did that, and then if she would cry a lot, you would hold her until she fell asleep.
Yeah, so there were times where she would cry a lot, and I would actually go into the room, hold her for 5 minutes, and I would talk to her. She was this little baby who couldn't talk back to me, but I would just talk to her. And I remember just like talking to this little human being, like, it's okay, I'm right here, and but you're gonna go back to your crib and you're gonna sleep. And I just like was with her. Like I was like my energy was just with her. Yes. And then I would put her back down and walk out.
It's great. It's great because if someone's listening to this, they may think, oh, that's something I could do with my child. But even if they say the exact same thing, it's different when you connect.
Yeah.
And then you bring yourself to them.
Yeah, it was totally.
You get to say the things you get to be, who you hold them. They connect very differently when you're connected.
Yeah.
You have connected.
And there's been so many times where I haven't even had to say anything. Like I remember when she would cry, sometimes at night I would just go into the room and hold her, and I wouldn't have to say anything because it would just be like being with her. Yeah. And I could feel her calming down in my arms. Like it was amazing. She would just calm down. And then I would put her in a crib and she would stay calm.
Yeah.
And
You
then I
know,
would
the
leave
thing I
and she
want
would stay
to,
calm.
yeah, because the thing I want to highlight is how when you as a parent are calm and centered,
Yeah.
you have none of your mind activated. And there is no other practice that releases the mind
Yeah.
activation, because even mindfulness or meditation, when you come out of it, you're still in the mind, but in a connection, you
Yeah.
unplug the mind. So you have none of the mind's activation as you're being with your child.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. There's been plenty of times where I've caught myself spending time with her, but my mind is somewhere else. Even as simple as like, oh, I have to quickly check my phone. Did I get that email? And I'm trying to multitask as a mom and get, handle her, do this, do that, do that. And then there's times where I've noticed like that background noise that's constantly going on with my thoughts and what I'm thinking and what has to get done and what's next. It kind of disappears. Like you really are in the moment
Yeah.
more frequently than before.
Yeah.
And it almost slows down time. Like the day can go by, and if we're eating lunch together for 20 minutes, it's like the most precious 20 minutes of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not cluttered with me trying to do a million things, or me being with her while also thinking about 20 million other things. Like I actually feel like for that time I can just be with her.
Yes. Well, I think this is really a whole conversation for parents, because I can hear a parent saying, well, I have 4 kids and how do I like just don't be with them, and I don't have like what Priyanka
Yeah.
has and all of that. But the thing you're going to get in connecting is that whether you have 1, 3, 6, 8, 10, when you connect, your energy holds all of them. And you'll find that it works for your unique journey with whoever they are and however they are. That's why you can't do it from the mind, because from the mind, it'll give you all the justifications and reasons about why, you can't be with all of them in the same way and all of that. But it's remarkable when you connect and you shift that energy from out of your mind, you find situations that really connect you in ways that is possible, but you can't get your hands around it,
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
It's awesome, Priyanka. Well, I'm so excited to hear you share that. I know there's going to be more for you to share with us
Yes.
as you
I have
take this
so
journey.
many moments that I'm like ready to share, because I think I really do feel like being a parent today is really hard.
Mm.
We have our own expectations of the kind of parents we want to be. We have a relationship to how we were parented with our parents. And there's usually stuff that we liked about it, and things that we're like, oh no, I'm never going to be that kind of parent. And then there's just so much information out there of what to do, what not to do, what's the best thing to do, and being a parent with all of that going on is really hard. And so I'm really excited to share as much as I can about my journey, because I really do feel like every parent needs this in their life. And the moment they can start experiencing it is the moment that they're going to start realizing how amazing parenting can be, and how you really can have an amazing family life without the stress and without the worry and without all of the things that people don't want to talk about, but every parent knows they deal with. Like every mom can relate to those moments where you're just like, oh my God, what is going on? And you're just crying, or, like every parent has those moments, and this reduces those moments so that you can just enjoy your parenting life and your children, at any age, whatever you're going through. And so I'm really, really honored to be able to share my story, because I really.
Oh my gosh, it is so amazing to have you share. I got goosebumps as you were sharing some of your stories. It's remarkable, because it really is redefining parenting. It really is redefining
It
parenting
is.
because
Yeah.
parenting from the mind is so different than parenting from the self. And Priyanka, I don't know any other person that amplifies it as you do. And I think you are an
Thank
amazing,
you.
really ambassador for parents knowing that it is possible. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share all of this. And we will be talking some more. And
Yes.
I think we'll have you on when you have this other baby, and then you have two, and now what is it like connecting with both of them?
Yes.
And we'll really get people
I
to
would love that.
experience it. That would be so amazing.
Yep. I'm actually due in a few weeks. So I'm excited to see what this next chapter of my journey looks like with two.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will definitely be in touch with you as I step into this new era of my parenting with two kids.
That would be amazing. Okay, thank you so much. And if any one of you are like heard something here that you love, that you're like, wow, how can I get what that is? Just click
Yeah.
on our link below and go to our website and begin to just send us an email, a comment on this video. Just let us know
Yeah.
what you want to know more about, and we'll be on and we'll answer your questions.
Yeah. And you can even comment below with any questions, and I can help answer whatever I can from my own experience. I would love to do that.
We will do that. So listen, no more struggle and effort as a parent. No, no more.
No more.
All
No
right.
more stressful parenting.
All right. So, okay, we'll talk again soon.
All right, great. Thanks,
Okay,
Indira.
bye. Okay, hold on. Let me